up, Woodward. We are starting off your day with a brand new crew. Meet Broder.
I can't control my arms sometimes. My limbs are just kind of flying.
Detroit Kool-Aid.
Fired up!
Y'all got Kool-Aid. Hi.
Fired up! But with the Wake Up Woodward crew, he's actually a part of the family.
Flannel Sam.
Ask me about my wiener.
Okay.
Along with JB and KG. Wake Up Woodward gets you all of your Detroit sports talk. Every morning, 8 to 10 a.m. Live on Woodward Sports. A show for Detroit, by Detroit, with people from Detroit. Tell Siri to set an alarm, because it's time to Wake Up Woodward.
We've been talking a lot all season about the development of the young guys, of Colt Keith.
Yes,
Trey
sir.
Sweeney just got called up. Jace Young just got called up. And that comes from a Tigers middle infield lineage that started with the man to my right. And that's World Series champion Alan Trammell. Mr. Trammell, thank you so much for being here.
One of my favorite numbers
That was a
is
nice
3.
lead in
Let's
there.
go.
Well done.
Let's go.
Go Tigers. Nice little walk-off last night. I hope the Tiger fans are excited. I know that we're not there yet, but I do like the progress, and I do like the fact that we're bringing some of the kids back up. And it's exciting for me, to be honest with you. And I hope that the fans agree. But
They do.
obviously a nice exposure, national exposure, Sunday Night Baseball. The boys
That Little
They
League
did.
Classic. It
Yeah.
was
Very
fun.
nice.
Awesome environment.
And Kirk on the flagship radio station for the Detroit Tigers said a couple months ago, just be patient. Patient, and that's the word that not a lot of fans want to hear. But from your perspective, you got to be excited about what's going on with that team, the youth movement, just how AJ Hinch, Chris Fetter, and crew are taking this team for what it is and starting to really build something.
They are. They're building something. Good way to describe it, and I'll second that. And just of nature for all of us, we're all impatient, and we want it. And it's been a while. Let's be honest.
You don't
but,
say.
You've got to do it, and we're doing it the right way. We really are. There's a few more bumps along the road. Obviously, playing professional sports, it's not just going to be given to you. You know, you're competing against other teams that are trying to do the same thing you are, win. But I do believe that the foundation is being set, and that it's going to be an exciting 6 weeks because, again, there's going to be a couple bumps. But for the most part, those kind of wins like last night and the development that you're seeing from a guy like, the walk-off with Parker Meadows, but Jace Young getting his first Major League RBI in the bottom of the ninth to get it into extra innings, those are all good things.
Yeah.
And obviously Tarek Skubal doing his thing. What a year he's having. So, again, we've got some pieces that it's going to be part of a championship team, which is what all Tiger fans are looking for.
Yep. And obviously you've been a part of what that feels like. You've also seen other good Tigers teams be formed after your team.
Mm-hmm.
What do you say to this current Tigers team? Because you believe in the foundation, but you also understand that they're going to go through some ups and some downs and some bumps before they ultimately get to where they want to go. What do you say to them to encourage them through that?
Well, one of the things is you have to the way you find out about a player, be honest with you, in any sport or really in any profession, is that you've got to go through some adversity. And you need to find out what they're really made of. Because when things are going good, well, it's easy. But that's not going to happen. That's not reality. Things are going to, at some point, it's going to fall off. And what do? How do you respond? And so these challenges that you go through, and again, we're going to get into Kirk Gibson, the challenges. That's what Kirk Gibson's all about, is a challenge, taking that on. But these young kids now are starting to learn. And so there's been a couple of times, and I know that we all have looked at it as like, well, here we go, we're going this way. And all of a sudden we've responded every time. And so those are the signs. Those are the signs that to develop a good club, that's what you do.
You said it
we're
right
on the right
there.
track.
You said it right there. That's one thing that we've been tracking. Our guy, Matt Broder here, who covers the Tigers for the network, he's been saying it's going to be a roller coaster.
Oh, no.
But as the season goes on, you're going to see that this team is hovering right around 500. We've talked about the fact that they continue to fight off the wheels just falling off the bus. They continue to show that they're going to put forth the effort, the work, and then, like you always say, Broder, it's cool to see these young players also making an impact.
Right.
It's an awesome thing to see.
Well, you're right. Again, I'll second that, but I'm going back years and years ago when our nucleus came up, including yours truly right here. the stories always get better when you get older. They forget we failed quite a bit ourselves, but we kept getting back up, and eventually it led to the championship and some pretty good clubs for quite a long time. But again, we started somewhere. Everybody has to start somewhere and go through these ups and downs as we've just described. But I think back to how we did it back then, and it's really no secret. Developing from within your farm system, drafting, developing your players. This isn't new. This isn't some sort of new concept. They've been trying. Organizations have been trying to do this forever. But it doesn't always work. Obviously, you've got to get the right players and then put the work in. Well, it worked for us back then. They're still trying to do it. And then when you get to a level that you're like, that you're close, that's when you can add and get over that final hurdle. And I think that we're getting close, but the nucleus has got to come from within, and I think that's where I'm excited, because I do know, and just watching and seeing and from afar, because I'm only around occasionally, but I'm watching. That again, I like what I see.
Yeah.
I'm watching.
Yeah. And Mr. Trammell, you talked about overcoming adversity. I do want to ask you about Kirk Gibson and your relationship with him, what he means to you, and what it means to be able to support what he's doing. Of course, he was a part of that nucleus of that '84 World Series team with you both. With my former coach Dave Bergman, rest in peace. So, what does
good man Bergie for sure? Yep.
It was. What does Kirk Gibson mean to you, and being out here to support him?
Well, just trying to put it in some sort of instead of taking a half hour, because I love the man, and as I mentioned earlier about how he's lived his life, everything he's done, it's a challenge, as I mentioned before. But I'm saying it again because, again, the biggest challenge he has right now is dealing with Parkinson's. So a lot of times with the Parkinson's, people, obviously it's tough. There's no question about it. But what he tries to do, and obviously the raising the money and the awareness, but come to that person and say, hey, you've got to take this on. You can't hide. We have to deal with that. And again, that's how Kirk Gibson lives his life. And it's awesome when you see him come up to somebody and you can see them come out of their shell a little bit. And this is how, again, it's a terrible, terrible disease. There's no question about it. But again, like in life, do you quit or do you keep pushing?
Yeah, do you fight?
Well, obviously we know that answer. You keep pushing, and that's Kirk Gibson in a nutshell. And I love the man. Again, playing with him, he is a very intelligent man, and I just give him all the credit in the world that, again, he's, he has his better days, some days not so good, some days a little better, but the fact is he shows up every day. He posts every day. And he's got a huge heart. And again, we're here for a reason, to raise some funds to hopefully someday beat this thing.
Yeah. So I'll leave you with this last question. Why I love baseball so much? It's a game of overcoming adversity. You have to learn how to deal with failure, learn how to deal with heartache.
That you do.
You do, especially these young kids. How optimistic should the fans be about Colt Keith?
Oh, well, you know what? When you take away the first month and look at his numbers, he's arguably the top rookie in the American League. Oh, yeah. So again, that first month does count, but again, that's a learning experience. So what did he do? Did he quit? Did he go home? Absolutely not. He kept pushing, and now, he's respectable, more than respectable.
Yeah.
But that's how the kids develop. And so
I love it.
Credit to Colt Keith and the staff working with him, but Colt Keith's ultimately the one that goes out there and performs. You can only help somebody. We can talk, and then you have to go out there and do it. And that was the exciting part as a player that I certainly enjoyed, and many others, but Colt Keith's a good one, and he's part of our nucleus for sure.
I was going to say, you would know, happy 40th.
Oh,
happy
it's coming
40th.
Up. We got a little reunion coming up very shortly, less than 2 weeks. So we're going to get a chance to see, quite a few of our teammates, and I'm smiling because just like when you see, anytime Gibby and I get together, Rosie, Lance Parrish, Dan P., all the rest of the guys, even though we're older, we're still big little kids, and we reminisce, and the stories never get old. It's always good to see them.
Awesome. Well, Mr. Trammell, thank you so much for joining us and for being here today. We're so excited to be a part of this event. It was really great talking to you.
Well, appreciate you coming out and supporting Kirk Gibson's charity golf tournament, and raising awareness and some funds.
Fantastic.
Definitely.
Fantastic.
And this defensive line, per Dan Campbell, per Easy, per everyone down watching camp, this defensive line is showing out. And Levi what an interesting figure, character, player, situation.
Yeah.
So much talent, so much athleticism through the roof. He's just dealt with some serious injuries, back injuries that just affect that explosion, that ability to get better. But he seems to be healthy, and he seems to be showing out. And I don't know if they knew it was going to be like this, but with the pairing of Marcus Davenport and his question marks, but high upside, Levi O and his high upside, this is probably why they didn't go add that other edge rusher opposite Hutch.
Yeah.
Opposite Hutch. Let's if you could play that video, JB, of Dan Campbell talking about Levi O, he's noticing Levi O out there, and he made a comment about him being one of the best defenders he sees out on the field. Check this out.
Well, I would tell you this started in the spring. You know, we kind of mentioned him. He's earned it. I mean, it's clear that he's one of the best. I mean, it's just clear. And he plays with violence. He's stout. He's fundamentally better than he's ever been. And he's shown that he has some versatility between the big end and base and 3 technique. He can play some big end and sub, you know, and nickel. And he's just earned it. I mean, and so he continues to go. He feels good. And so he's in a good place.
He's earned it. Like, this is the story of Lions players. One of the best out there. He's earned it. The talent, we know it's there. Now it's, all right, we got to see you on the field. And when you talk about this defense, whether they play a lot of 4-3, maybe some nickel, maybe they move to some dime with, you got Ennis Rakestraw, Emmanuel Mosley, Amik Robertson all competing. Like, there's an opportunity where we see 6 DBs out there, and you're going to need some pass rush there alongside Reeder, Aleem. Maybe they play some 5-2, and you got DJ Reeder in the middle, Aleem and Levi O next to Reeder, and then on the outside, Hutch and Davenport.
It's nasty.
Like, what do you do? We need them to be healthy. We're not even factoring Broderick. Unfortunately, Kaminsky's out indefinitely. What was it? Natane Mutai. He's out for likely the season with the shoulder injury. But guys, what could Levi O? What kind of difference could a player like this make for this entire defense?
You know what stands out to me is just the fact that they have so much more depth, so much more reliability this year that, you know, you don't want to see a guy like a Kaminsky go down. You know, he was going to play a decent role for this team, but it's not earth-shattering. Last year, it seemed like this team was literally one injury away from the defensive line needing some serious help. And that was with us already believing that they needed to make a move to bolster the defensive line last year, even after they tried a couple different options and ultimately with Bruce Irvin being the most popular after he made that impactful hit against Carr. But you know what? I think it represents what this team can be as it relates to depth. When we're not talking about injuries, then you're talking about keeping your players even more fresh. That's what I'm focusing on and keying in on right now. When you're talking about longevity, I think that also goes to keep your players in a position to be more healthy, keep your players in a position to be more fresh, and keep your players in a position where they are getting reps as well. And I believe this team is set up to be able to do that and have some pretty solid rotations.
It is, and it's a massive bonus if you get a healthy Marcus Davenport for an entire season. Not just because he's a mammoth of a human. He's strong, he's powerful, and he's quick off the line. When he plays, he sacks the quarterback. But he's also now realized, like, he's not a young cat anymore. He's not old, but he's not young. And having gone through this adversity, he knows what he needs to do to get his next contract. He also knows what he needs to do to get to a Super Bowl. And you see him in this next video we're going to show, courtesy of Detroit Podcast, our guy Doc from All Lions over at SI. He talked about just the entire defensive unit and just everybody making everybody better. Listen to this. Again, courtesy of Doc Macaroon at Detroit Podcast on X, SI's All Lions publication.
You know, people on the outside talk about who's going to play well and get the sacks opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. Do you feel like that can be answered with you on this roster?
I mean, honestly, there's a lot of guys, like I just said earlier, that, you know, can definitely get the sacks and work off of his production and then just, you know, be a catalyst. So,
do you think people should just calm down then, realizing this defensive line can get the job done?
Yeah, exactly.
That type of confidence. Yeah.
Simple, to the point.
Yeah.
But we got dudes.
You know, he had that same kind of ride confidence that Jared Goff had when he was in that podcast. And he said, you know, I'm going to be here for a while. Before the contract, and we all knew, oh, this guy's locked in.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like. This team looks locked in. The coaches are happy. I don't go through when we go through training camps. We've heard when the coaches have been upset or want to be able to see something different out of their team, but we're not hearing that out of these guys. We're hearing that they're locked in. We're hearing the reports from the people that are down at training camp like, yo, they look pretty good.
They look disruptive.
I like it.
I like it. KG, when I play or
Fired up.
when I give you some of those like hypothetical defenses with these athletes, whether it's 4 or 5 out there on defense, and then whatever they decide to do at nickel, and cornerback, and we talked a lot yesterday about Enos Rakestraw and the physicality he plays with in the nickels. Is this defense? Is it set up to defend quarterbacks like Jordan Love, like Caleb Williams, the types of quarterbacks that the Lions have historically struggled in because of all this athleticism and pressure they can get, not just up the middle, but from the edges and from the outside?
No, I believe so. When you look at everybody that they've acquired on this defense, especially this past offseason, one thing that stands out immediately is versatility. And I know we always say that jokingly, versatility. You know, but it's the truth. That is something that this regime really values, man. They like being able to have you master in one area, but also being able to use you in another, man. And I think that bodes well, especially defensively, because we need people that can get to the quarterback. That has always been the issue. But if you can take a Levi Onwuzurike out of the middle and maybe play him on the edge a little bit, I think that goes a long way. When you can take Aiden and put him in the middle, that goes a long way. There's things that they can do to help supplement some of the things that they've been deficient in. So I just really hope that it looks good on the field, because like Flannel Sam would always say, no training camp victory laps. We need to see it on the field. But I think that they've done a good job, at least of player acquisition, and trying to make sure that they have the pieces in place to be able to mix it up, to be able to do different things defensively, especially on the line and in the secondary. We're going to see it a whole lot this year.
Because you know what we did see on the field last year? We were all calling for AG to make some schematic changes when it was clear. Even the organization was stating, yeah, we're going to have to bring in some more talent. And when he did make that schematic change, I saw so much versatility in terms of hiding their plays. You didn't know if it was going to be a blitz. You didn't know if there was a blitz, where it was going to, which layer of the defense it was going to be coming from.
Yeah.
And now you're giving him talent, not the backups that probably were overextended in their role.
Exactly.
Now you're giving him talent, and not just talent, depth, the backups, the rotation. Think about what AG is going to be able to do. Like, when you talk about no excuses, I'm not one of those guys that's like, all right, time to prove something, AG. I believe this is a year where AG's actually going to prove something. Based on what I saw last year, you give him the talent. How does it look now?
And you talked about versatility. Levi O's a perfect example, because they've had him a little bit on the inside, on the outside. Like, they're trying to find which is his best role, but they're probably going to use him in both. And then we heard Dan Campbell yesterday talk about Matthew Betts. And we're going to throw James Houston into this conversation too. They initially were throwing a lot at him at the Sam linebacker position. They decided, let's pull it back a little bit. Let's make sure he can master the edge rushing first. It just seemed a little early to throw that all in. So they want their guys to be versatile, but they're not afraid to pull back if needed, especially with young developmental guys. I'm not saying that is Levi O, but I'm saying exactly what you were pointing out. They value that versatility and guys that can help in all different schemes, all different strategies, even Hutch dropping back into coverage and intercepting the ball. It's wild. Justin, I know you had something to say about the defensive line.
I definitely do. And it's the improvement is going to be seen, especially when what is something that has killed the Lions over the last 3 years consistently.
Mobile quarterbacks?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Exactly. Mobile quarterbacks. The run stuffing ability of DJ Reader to not be pushed around in the middle. The edge rushing, hopefully improving between Marcus Davenport and Houston, should all make it so that is less of a weakness for the Lions. Also, that guy on that back wall.
Yes, sir.
And
Yes,
Terrion
sir.
Arnold.
Let's show that.
They are both gifted tacklers. Carlton Davis,
so
another
clean.
good tackler. This secondary now has good tacklers where quarterbacks get on the outside. They're not just going to be running by our DBs because we can't tackle. They're going to be scrapped. They're going to be hit. They're going to be met by the dogs that we have on the outside. And that, to me, is going to make such a big difference in games. Like when we play Kyler Murray in Arizona, or we even play Brock Purdy and Jordan Love when they show a little bit of their mobility. I think that it's just going to be such a big key for us to be able to tackle at a much higher clip than we were last year.
The Detroit Lions. They continue to show up on all types of lists, man. And it's interesting because I know we're going to talk a little bit about the PFF top 10 players under the age of 25, where the Detroit Lions, top 7, 3 of the top 7 are Detroit Lions. And one guy that's really been kind of making the waves.
Who's not on this list, by the way.
Making the waves.
I'm sure a lot of you think he probably already should be.
Listen, if we had training camp rankings, he would be on there. And he's on my victory lap, training camp victory lap rankings.
Get ready for that
This guy
jersey.
is on there. Shout out to Jamison
Get
Williams.
ready for that jersey.
Shout out to Jamison Williams. Seeing the clips over the weekend. I'm trying to listen to Flannel, but it is very, very difficult. It is very difficult. I tried. And then I saw the one that Travis posted. Shout out to Travis and the social team of the release off the line, and then the catch with the nice hands, and then the speed of the field.
My boy looking
J-Mo,
in
man.
season form right now.
In season form. And you hear it, right? You saw the other graphic? You have no one on your defense that can stop me. It's
Nobody.
what was reportedly stated.
Nobody.
At training camp. That's why I told you. We had to make a little time for it. Because Jamison Williams, man. I know we talk about expectations, but what I'm seeing right now, it is so vastly different than the previous training camps for Jamison Williams that sometimes it's a little bit difficult to contain or to wait until he does this thing in a regular season game. But I'm happy where things are trending with Jamison Williams.
Yeah, no, and for the record, I don't have any problem whatsoever with people being excited about what they see. And I've always said we all predict the best season of his career, no doubt about it. We all kind of predict a varying degree of breakout season, and I have absolutely no issue with that whatsoever. Again, though, what have I always said? No training camp victory laps.
I already bought the domain. I can't return it.
And for the record, J-Mo, that's a little too big for that statement right there is a little bit too big for your britches.
No, it's not.
Hey,
No,
Let's talk about
if he feel like that, then that's what the fuck you say.
Surely he's had a game where he's had 70 receiving yards in his career yet, then, right?
That is the past.
That didn't happen.
This is the future.
Okay, fine. But you
we
know
talking
what?
about this season, Sam.
Stop talking the most. If I were Jamison Williams, I would do this. But then again, he's got people on this network and in this chat acting like he's already a mix of Tyreek Hill and Jesus.
And people on the Lions. Don't forget the Lions.
Fine.
Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell. I'm telling, it's coming from everywhere. It's not just us, Sam. That is why we're excited.
So is he Tyreek Hill and Jesus yet, or is he going to be that tomorrow in training camp? Is that what he's going to be?
JB, what up, though, man? I heard you getting fired up in there.
Hey, look, if J-Mo has the balls to sit out here and say this statement, you have to believe it. I'm sorry, I'm believing it. I know Sam is going to sit here and say no parades during training camp, no victory laps, but come on, if you see the videos right now, you're like,
talk about it, man.
This dude is on another level right now.
Different.
He looks good. He looks like, hey, like I said last week, back in the Alabama days, he looks back like that. And
like
honestly,
comfortable, right?
He's comfortable. He's happy here. He's now got a full training camp on session. He's got a connection with golf now. This season is going to be fun. And I'm sorry, Flannel, but you better get this jersey prepared. I'm just saying.
Fun police, man.
I'm not the fun police.
But you gotta realize, like, if he doesn't live up to everything he's saying right now, we will go back to this moment and say, why the hell were you saying that? Like, fans aren't dumb, but like I said, when it's coming from the coach, when it's coming from the staff, when you can see it on video, I know it's training camp.
In the playoffs too, though.
But
that's still on my mind.
For a guy that hasn't had any real training camp, so far in his career, the returns look great so far. Of course, he needs to prove it on the field. He needs to stay healthy, but he has all the ability in the world. There is a reason they moved up to get this man. If he hadn't got injured, I put it on my name that he would have been the first wide receiver off the board that year.
Probably.
Flat out. Flat out.
No, you're probably right. And I hope that I do have to wear the jersey because I actually will do it. I will take the medicine that is coming to me. It's just when it comes to Jamison Williams, I've been burned too many times by a lot of the people in the chat, a lot of people at the network, because I truly believe that no matter what he does this season,
we need stream music for this.
No matter what he does, people will find a way to victory lap. Watch. He makes one catch on 3rd and 6 for 11 yards. people will say, you see that flannel? Would a bus do that? As
Hey,
I said
look,
before, yes, bus has
Stay
done that
tapped
before.
into the watch parties.
Yes.
Because I'm going to make sure I do that.
And what did I say? What did I say on this show? My prediction for his stat line this season is 1,010 yards from scrimmage and 7 touchdowns. And that would be a very, very fine season. I don't think he's going to get 1,000 receiving yards, so I don't think I'll get the jersey. But the stat line that I just named is a good season, and I wouldn't poo-poo that at all.
It was funny, though. The last show, your clip, bro, was hilarious because he was like, look, no victory laps, no this, no that, no that. And then I started to see this little Grinch-like smile come on Fernando Sam towards the end of the clip, and he's like, but I think he's going to get there. And it was just like, let's go. But JB, I see you in the booth, brother. What up, though?
I just wanted to present this because one person is already victory lapping at the open practice training camp for fans right now. So, J-Mo, I'll trade you all of this ramen for your cleats or gloves.
Let's go.
So, hey.
Let's go.
He got a standing ovation as well, too, this past weekend. J-Mo.
Yeah. Oh, I thought the top ramen sign.
No.
That's standing up applause worthy. That definitely is. What'd you say?
I wonder if he did it.
If he made the trade?
Yeah.
Oh man,
we'll have to find out at the end of camp. In the practice today.
J-Mo, man. But you're right. He's not on this PFF list. He's a guy that if he has if he has a season that qualifies him for a jersey, where do you think that this lands him kind of within these players under 25? And we got to talk about the players that are on there, but I just wanted to be able to get your quick take on J-Mo.
It depends on the level of the season.
Ooh.
That like in 1,000-yard receiving season, that is a non-negotiable if he wants to enter a list like this. And I don't think that's unfair at all. But even if he does that, then, and this isn't meant to be a shot because a lot of people hate when I do this, it'll still be at best one less 1,000-yard receiving season than Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, and at worst 2. So we shall see.
But look, it is cut day officially, and the Lions have already began to take care of business. And we're gonna start with the offensive cuts.
Yes.
Have there been any surprises on this list so far? You got tight end Shane Zylstra, wide receiver Donovan Peoples-Jones, running back Zonovan Knight, wide receiver Caden Davis, and there's some names here that you mentioned yesterday.
No, to be honest, the most shocking one to me was Shane Zylstra.
Bingo.
That was
right on the button.
That one kind of had me almost like fall out of my chair at that one. And I'm assuming that the Lions will carry 3 tight ends, so that means that opens up a spot for James Mitchell. And to me, Shane Zylstra outplayed James Mitchell in the preseason. I think Shane Zylstra offers you something more as a blocker. And to be honest, I would say Shane Zylstra, in both have had very limited playing time, has showed more in the regular season. It's just that James Mitchell, man, sometimes talent trumps everything, because to me, I said it yesterday, I think he's even more talented than Brock Wright. He was somebody that the Lions were really excited about. They got him in the 5th round, but that was only because he was hurt. It just hasn't really worked for him just yet. And I just think Shane Zylstra would fit and be happier with a tight end 3 role than somebody like James Mitchell. It seemed like a match made in heaven having Zylstra as your tight end 3, but I'm not in the building, so I'm going to use the Dan Campbell credit on this one and say whatever he says, and especially when it comes to tight end 3, those are the dictionary definition of first world problems.
Yeah, nothing personal, but is he talented if he can't catch the ball? I'm just saying, like, this one I just did not understand. Shane Zylstra has been somebody that has outplayed James Mitchell in totality over his Lions career. Like, I just didn't really understand this move. I don't know why you're keeping James Mitchell at this point, but Shane Zylstra, it's a shame to see him go, but everybody else was pretty predictable. Caden Davis was kind of a surprise too. Maybe they'll bring him back in a practice squad capacity, but yeah, that's the big one, Shane Zylstra.
I actually, Donovan Peoples-Jones, obviously, after the first preseason game, I think most of us were pretty much still on, yeah, he's probably going to make it. After the end of the preseason, I think pretty much all of us were unanimous that he's got to go. And it's no disrespect to him. It's just he didn't necessarily earn it. And boy, do I have a stat for you on Donovan Peoples-Jones for how poorly he actually performed in the preseason. Because a lot of people were, I think, doing a little bit too much quarterback blaming. And for the record, in a vacuum, I don't blame you. When you're catching a lot of your passes from Nate Sudfeld, I get it. I'm not mad at you. Do you know what Donovan Peoples-Jones's passer rating when targeted was?
Is it in the negative?
Close.
Oh.
Are you sitting down? 1.9.
Jeez.
1.9.
That's terrible.
I think you get a better passer rating if every ball thrown to you is incomplete. I think if a quarterback just throws the ball in the dirt every time,
right,
it's
like
a higher
50 or something.
It's a higher passer rating than that. So yeah, Donovan Peoples-Jones, as we always said, was one of the most maybe the most disappointing player in all of preseason for the Lions. I would say definitely the most for the Lions. And also, I want to parlay that a little bit with Caden Davis. And I'm not trying to accuse Donovan Peoples-Jones as being somebody who doesn't work hard and doesn't have the desire, because he did make it to the NFL. He had a good career at Michigan, and that's a very, very good accomplishment. He has an 800-yard season as a receiver in the NFL, no disrespect to that. But Caden Davis is one of those guys who is 1/20th as talented as Donovan Peoples-Jones. But he seemed like he was fighting for his life out there. He made way more big plays. He caught a touchdown in the Kansas City Chiefs game. He just doesn't have an NFL skill set. So if you could put Caden Davis's will, at least in this training camp and preseason, into Donovan Peoples-Jones's body, hell, you probably have a wide receiver 3. But with Donovan Peoples-Jones, it just didn't work out in Detroit. It just didn't.
Yeah, and you know what? When you look at some of the comments, like around social media as well, especially when we posted that graphic, you see people go like, oh, man, I liked him. I wish it worked out. But so people are kind of already at that point with Donovan Peoples-Jones. We wanted him to work out, obviously hometown kid. Then you talk about the Michigan connection. You talk about some mild success in the NFL. Honestly, that if he could have maybe achieved 2/3 of that type of a seasonal success, it would have been gold for the Lions this season as that big body receiver, somebody that we knew we could rely on what we want in those types of opportunities or situations, or to at least be able to show the looks, and defenses have to be able to take those types of looks serious. Yeah. So it's disappointing from several different angles, because I do believe that the Lions are comfortable going into the season without that big body receiver. But imagine if that would have worked out and you had at least that option.
I mean, you disappointed in the story, but that's what Aiden Hutchinson is for. I mean, just being realistic, man. He is your Michigan athlete that got drafted by the hometown team. He'll be okay. But, yeah, just DPJ, I mean, you can't get them all right, man. I mean, Brad Holmes is shooting 70% from the field, but, I mean, you can't get them all right.
And I don't judge him on kicking the tires. You kicking the tires on some players like that, I'm fine.
Exactly,
because, it's funny because with a guy like Alex Anzalone, when they made the decision that, hey, this is going to be a guy we're rolling with as our starting linebacker, where were a lot of us at that time? We were like, what is he doing, bro? There are options out there in free agency. There are options in the draft. Mm-hmm. And now we see exactly how that's turned out to this point. So, yeah, you're not going, like you said, you're not going to shoot 100%, but I'm okay with him kicking the tires on certain opportunities to see if we can get a little bit more out of these budget picks and signings.
No, I mean, I don't blame Brad Holmes for trying. I mean, he was a $2 million player this year, or he was going to be for the Lions had he made the team. It's just, I think with what you've seen out of him in preseason, with the reports of him in training camp, maybe last year's season in which he had 13 catches when he played basically a full year with the Browns and the Lions, that wasn't by accident. I know a lot of it was attributed to, hey, he's coming in new to the Lions system, but he didn't do jack dick in Cleveland either last year. And this was on the heels of an 800-yard season. It's just the fall off has been even bigger than the come up, unfortunately, for Donovan Peoples-Jones. Mm-hmm. And another stat on Donovan Peoples-Jones, last season his passer rating when targeted, the quarterback passer rating when they target Donovan Peoples-Jones was 39.4, which is also morbidly terrible. So maybe Donovan Peoples-Jones is just washed. It's a shame. He's still young and he's so talented, or at least he showed that in Cleveland it was linear improvement, and then it was just fall off Mount Everest almost immediately.
Denver Blair.
NFL is a cruel, cruel world.
It's a cruel world. Denver Blair says, should have kicked the tires with Higgins. Should have kicked the tires with 6XL gloves.
I mean, T. Higgins in a vacuum would help this team, that's for sure. You just have to pay him about 12 times more than Donovan Peoples-Jones. But hey, I wouldn't be mad at it. But
there were the rumors during the summer.
Yeah.
There were the rumors definitely during the summer, and it's like, you know what? This was honestly, I think, been my biggest question mark going into training camp and through preseason. It's consistently been the wide receiver room. At every other position group, they made some improvements. The linebacker core and the wide receivers were the position groups where they didn't go and make an improvement. I was comfortable with the linebackers because I do believe that Jack Campbell's going to take that step forward. But we have some proven guys there. What Jack Campbell already did was decent if Alexander Zaloni is still that dude. They're still the top linebacker for us. So I was good there. But with the wide receivers is where, yeah, we got Amon-Ra. But to your point, and even though I'm on victory lap like number 130 for training camp J-Mo, he's still unproven. I do take a lot of stock in what he did in that NFC championship game and towards the later end of the season of being something that shows, some chemistry that was starting to be built with Jared Goff. But man, I do sit here after you're talking about the surety of Amon-Ra and the hope of Jameson Williams, hoping that everything else behind them comes together. One of the ones that we don't have to worry about is the Detroit Lions. So much so, and I feel like we have to put this disclaimer out there, my guy, Flannel. And make sure you tell Paulo Frederick we say what up, though, too. But we got to put this disclaimer out there. We know that we are discussing this from a standpoint of first world problem.
Yes.
We know this. We know this. If everything stays healthy, knock on wood,
sure.
This is a squad that we've all said, and they're saying, and other pundits out there are saying, has the recipe to go out there and win a Super Bowl. That's exactly what we want to see out of this squad. Stay healthy. And I believe that the depth that they have right now allows them to stay fresher, longer, rotate some guys in at some crucial areas. And you know what? This 53-man roster gives us a more clear look at that.
I mean, I think a perfect example of that, and this is where I think it's going to have universal agreement amongst all Lions fans and amongst Woodward Sports for sure. That running back room, who says no? You got Jahmyr Gibbs, you got David Montgomery, you got Sione Vaki, and you've got Craig Reynolds.
That's cooking.
That's elite.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how you would want it. Are there more questions about other rooms, like maybe the wide receiver room? Sure, but I think Tim Patrick, if he comes back and is healthy, will do a lot to alleviate that. And that's what sort of brings me to one of the points that I want to make today, because I think it played out this way. With the wide receiver room, the fact that you saw Isaiah Williams make the team as an undrafted free agent rookie, which is a hell of an accomplishment, but it looks like he earned it. The fact that you saw Donovan Peoples-Jones and Darius Fountain get cut, even though they are more of the archetype of the type of wide receiver that the Lions really needed. I mean, they signed Tim Patrick. You cannot convince me any longer that preseason is meaningless. You cannot convince me that Isaiah Williams' standout performances in preseason did not have some factor in him being on this team. You cannot convince me that Isaiah Williams' showing of being versatile, with even being at times, and I think in totality, the best kick returner and the best punt returner in the preseason, while also having the surest hands. Shout out Calhoun and Maurice Alexander for that. And being just a guy who always gets open. You can't tell me that didn't play a factor in him making this team. You can't tell me that the fact that quarterbacks had a 1.9 passer rating when targeting Donovan Peoples-Jones in the preseason had no factor in him making this team. You can't tell me that Darius Fountain, being for the most part a non-factor, didn't have a factor in him not making this team. Because I was told, and this isn't taking a shot at the heavyweights, but when they went to training camp, that Darius Fountain was this guy's obviously going to make the team. But you saw in preseason that Isaiah Williams clearly shone above the rest of them, and that's why he's on this team, in my opinion, and I couldn't be happier about it. He certainly earned it.
And Flannel, I want to relive the moment I had when you first walked in here. Well, you beat me here, but when we first met up this morning, I was like, "Hey, man, like, what are the biggest surprises of this of these cuts?" And what'd you tell me? you were like, "It's." I'm not really like pounding the table for anyone that was cut.
No, there's not one, and we're gonna get more into the defensive angle of the 53-man roster in the next segment. But offensively, no, there's. I mean, who's really heartbroken that Donovan Peoples-Jones got cut? And I know we discussed it yesterday, but we all saw him just look awful out there, for a lack of a better term.
If we can see it, they can.
Yes.
And his supporters are, just from a social standpoint and seeing all of the different comments. I know that dude Justin can talk on it too. We're just seeing on those posts about DPJ, people have come to grips into terms like, look, we wanted the story to work, we wanted the angle to work, but it didn't work. And I do believe that that's a sign of us as fans moving in the right direction as it relates to what to do with these Super Bowl expectations.
Yeah, and while they didn't go out and, trade for Brandon Ayuk or trade for Matthew Judon, those moves that really signal like, all right, all in for the Super Bowl, I think a lot of these cuts, while on a smaller scale, do prove that this front office, both Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, are being much more shrewd with their decision making. When we're talking about cutting guys like Sudfeld, cutting guys like Scott Daly, cutting guys like Shane Zylstra and James Mitchell, and moves that you think, yeah, of course, Sudfeld shouldn't have made the roster, but he's a guy that they do love and they trust and they want on the team. But it's to a point now where the 53-man roster, each roster spot is way more important than having, a third stringer take up a roster spot just to hold the clipboard and help Jared Goff throughout the week, which is what I like to talk about Sudfeld as being that guy. I think they might sign him to the practice squad, but nonetheless, their ability to make those decisions and upgrade, even if just a little. This Hogan hat and this new long snapper, we're not going to spend any time on him today, but that's just a small move to move away from Scott Daly for a more versatile long snapper who can play some special teams. Little moves like that give me hope that this front office, they're making the right decisions.
Sure, and I know, and this isn't me taking a shot at you or a Nate Sudfeld. We can talk about his value as Jared Goff's liaison, and I'm not trying to be a dick. That's like a. I'm just saying.
He is a clipboard specialist.
We can talk about throwing Sudfeld in the CJ-GJ bin.
CJ-GJ clears Sudfeld, obviously, but we talk about him as a practice squad guy, as somebody you could bring back, and I don't mind that. He cannot, under any circumstances, take a roster spot, take a 53-man roster spot. What if his spot would have taken the opportunity for them to go after Tim Patrick? What if he got the roster spot that what is now currently occupied by like a Brandon Joseph or a Ben Neiman or somebody like that? It cannot happen. When you are mortified of somebody ever taking a snap on the field, you can't have him on your roster. You just can't. So I was ecstatic that he didn't make the 53-man.
And that's what I meant by the CJ-GJ bin. When it was just a throwback to our one of our more epic, kind of battles in here, where we were discussing the impact, the intangibles that he brought. And you were discussing the fact that he wasn't making an impact on the field. He was injured. And that's what I was talking about as it relates to Sudfeld. And I do believe that it shows not just where Dan Campbell is. We've talked about the fact that they're willing to make the hard decisions, the tough decisions, even if that's moving on from one of their friends that they thought could originally do a job at a coaching spot. But it shows that Brad Holmes as well has done a great job. In the past, Nate Sudfeld's probably still on this roster, and some of the cuts are a little more difficult to make. But based on what you're doing in free agency, your drafts over the year absolutely panning out. Now all of a sudden you're to a point where you don't have that ability anymore to say, you know what, we'll just keep a Nate Sudfeld around. Now you have to say, you know what, we got to do what's best for this squad. Especially, we're going to continue to talk about it, depth and versatility.
Sure. Can't have Nate Sudfeld on the 53-man, and I think we all agree with this. Before we move on and go to break or go to anybody else, I just got to read this comment from my favorite person in the world, Shad.
Shad.
And I get where you're coming from, but let me explain. Victory lapping preseason is crazy coming from Sam when he said we can't victory lap training camp. Here's the difference, at least from my opinion. When I was talking about people making the team based on what they did off of a preseason and training camp as well, but also from what you saw in preseason, I'm referring to a rookie undrafted free agent making this team over Donovan Peoples-Jones. I'm not victory lapping. I'm more so explaining how or why I believed it happened. And I think that the preseason performance had something to do with it. There's no way you can tell me that it didn't. I will repeat again, quarterbacks in the preseason when targeting Donovan Peoples-Jones had a 1.9 passer rating. That's impossible, but it happened.
I love how JB Smooth just left the camera on Flannel Sam.
I just let him cook.
Just a little bit longer. Hey, let me see that 3-point celebration. Let's go.
Oh, yeah. I'm not the swag guy.
Let's go. Let's go, man.
I'm a hand the ball to the referee guy. Come on, you guys know that, except when it's Jesse Winker. Because I don't have to be consistent with my principles. Come on, we all know that. I treat everyone the same, differently.
It's cool to see, man. Just looking at the 53-man roster on the offense, I believe Broder kind of summed it up right. There's nothing that really jumps off the page. Like, yo, what are they doing? everything looks like, you know what? This team, this front office, this coaching staff, they're in complete lockstep, and the players that are there are some of the ones that we wanted to see there. I'm so glad to see that Sonny Vaki was more than just a guy we were discussing about as it relates to early potential. Obviously, now he has to still cash in on what Dan Campbell has said. We believe that this is a guy who's more than potential, that he's going to be able to produce out there on the field. So when I look at the roster, though there's no surprises, there are definitely some decisions out there that I'm very, very excited about. Hendon Hooker as quarterback, too. Going out there and earning it. You know what? Not because Nate Sudfeld doesn't belong on the field, but because Hendon Hooker went out there and proved to us in his first preseason, his first real action, that he's a guy that, you know what, knock on wood, if Jared Goff goes down, could definitely hold down a series or a game. Sione Vaki being in there. I'm glad that he went out there and did his thing through preseason, especially after he had such a big presence on our draft coverage. You know, Broder, Sam, Anson, JB Smooth, everybody, man, and that's what the team is about. We're always going to try and make sure we shout out those.
Hell yeah,
that we know
Anson was on it early.
Yeah, and so I want to ask you guys. Obviously, we're excited that people like Sam Laporta made it. But who are some of the guys that were on the fringe that, you know, on this offense that you're like, you know what, I'm glad they made it. But give me that right after the break, and we'll get into this defense as well. But, hey, you know what, man? As this kind of offseason, the 53-man rosters are becoming final. I know, Broder, you said that something came to mind as it relates to Jameson Williams, who we're expecting a big season out of. Wide receiver 2, it's big expectations. He has big expectations. But there was one team in particular that came to mind, and it was one Minnesota Vikings who aren't having, in my opinion, the best of off seasons or preseasons right now, man. Who won that 2022 Jameson Williams draft day trade between the Vikings and the Lions? Well, we got to talk about it, right?
Yeah, yes, we do. And let me just say this: you can't definitively yet say that the Lions made great picks with Jameson Williams and Josh Paschal. I think J-Mo is going to have a breakout season. I think Josh Paschal is going to have a breakout season to some degree. But when it really was put right in front of me, the 2022 draft, the picks that the Vikings got and the picks that they made, it looks like I'm starting to believe that the Vikings GM, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, just can't draft worth a damn. Because their number 32 overall pick was Lewis Cine, a guy who unfortunately started out his career hurt, but hasn't done anything in the NFL, and he just got released. The number 42 overall pick was cornerback Andrew Booth, who has done nothing for the Vikings whatsoever and got traded. Their 59th pick is Ed Ingram, who's a starting guard, but a below average one. And their 66th overall pick from the 2022 draft was Brian Asamoah, who has done absolutely nothing for the Vikings and was beat out by UFA in 2023. When I saw that, when I was really reminded of it, I'm starting to believe that a lot of the people who are dismissing the Vikings as a team that is going to be last in the NFC North and maybe gets like 5 to 7 wins, I get what they're saying. Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, he was fortunate to inherit Justin Jefferson and Christian Darrisaw and like Harrison Smith, for example, and he's made some moves that I like in this offseason, but the way that he's drafted, particularly in this 2022 draft where they had all of these picks. They had 4 picks from 32 to 66, and that's what you got? Lewis Cine, Andrew Booth, Ed Ingram, and Brian Asamoah? That's shameful.
Wait, Lewis who?
Cine.
Where is he?
He got hurt, and he got hurt in his rookie year, but he's off the team. He's done.
Man.
He's done.
He's on the Jets practice squad now.
He's on the Jets. He's on the Jets practice squad.
There was hype around him when he got drafted, too. So
There was, and it's just, I'm starting to think that Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah just has no idea what he's doing. And Broder, because I want to throw it to you, you had questions about the draft that they just had. You were the one who next day said, I think the Vikings had a crappy draft. Going off of his history, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, maybe he just doesn't know what he's doing.
I don't think he does. Like, what are we talking about here, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah? Like, he's hit on like 2.5 out of 16 draft picks since he's been in Minnesota. He mortgaged the farm basically to move up one spot to get J.J. McCarthy, Dallas Turner. I don't know what he's doing. This trade, I would argue the Packers won that trade. Between the Lions and the Vikings, the Lions won the trade, then the Packers came next because the Packers got Christian Watson out of pick number 34. But he hasn't done
anything. If not for Kevin O'Connell, if not for inheriting Justin Jefferson, this Vikings team might be a joke.
Yeah.
Might be a joke. And when you compare it to Brad Holmes, when you compare it to what Brad Holmes has done, we're talking last year. Lewis seen their first-round pick, not even on the team anymore.
Yeah.
Andrew Booth, the second pick in that, already traded for a third-round pick, Nashawn Wright, who was already waived by the Vikings and brought back to their practice squad. Brad Holmes, of the 20 starters, the Lions have now, of the 20 starters on the Lions roster right now, 11 were drafted by Brad Holmes. 30 players on the 53-man roster are still in the first 4 years of their career, and 50 of the 53 players on the active roster were acquired by Brad Holmes. Kwesi Adofo-Mensah? Come on, man.
Yeah, and
That's crazy.
well, yeah, and this is where I don't even know if I want to say here. Let me just, because I'm gonna give a little bit of grace, but I'm also going to highlight the situation that he walked into. It just depends on the picks that he missed. With the Lewis Cine one, he is very, very lucky that he inherited Cameron Bynum and Josh Metellus, two safeties who were lower round picks by the previous regime and have turned out to be good players. He's lucky. He made a couple of moves in the offseason, like getting Shaquille Griffin and getting Stephon Gilmore to offset Andrew Booth being absolutely nothing and Mekhi Blackman being hurt. But you'd rather, in a perfect world, if you're Adolfo-Mensah, have your cornerback that you drafted work out instead of having to pay a couple. I mean, in Ed Ingram, there's a reason why we talk about the Vikings tackles and not their guards. Ed Ingram stinks. And I'm not even trying to be a dick. Some offensive linemen just aren't good, and Ed Ingram is one of them. And Brian Asamoah, again, he's a nothing of a player. Ivan Pace beat him out. They went and paid Brian Cashman, which were good moves, but they're good moves that were a necessity because of the Brian Asamoah pick being an absolute disaster. And all of these 4 picks being an absolute disaster. And as you said, the Packers got more out of their one player, Christian Watson, than the Vikings did from their 4. And it's not close. It's not close.
It's not close at all.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go on.
I say, what does Jamison Williams not have to do for this to not be like an absolute grand slam home run? It's already a win, right?
It's technically, yeah.
Yeah,
technically.
I want to be very clear. I think that when we look back at this trade, even though I've been called like the biggest JMO hater, and I don't blame you for that, it's going to be looked at as a massive win for the Detroit Lions, no doubt about it. Because JMO's about to have a breakout season, and for the record, I've been critical of Jamison Williams. I've been more critical of his fans, but we did see him have a great game in the NFC Championship. We did see him make big splash plays down the stretch. More important splash plays than we ever saw from any of these Vikings guys, without a shadow of a doubt.
But I don't blame you, though. I don't blame you one bit for saying, you know what, I need to see something first. Because when Jamison Williams was taken, this was before we knew at all what this organization or this regime was going to be. And all we had seen prior is, you know what, seemingly, hey, this is a good hire. These are the right people. They're going to bring the Lions back to fruition. We saw this for a couple different regimes, and all of it fell on its face. As you said earlier, egg on the face, the Lions organization was absolutely jumping into a swimming pool full of it. Now all of a sudden we see Brad Holmes absolutely cooking, and as fans, now all of a sudden we're gonna take a step back and listen to exactly what he's doing, because he stated, my process for evaluating players is different than even a lot of the other pros out there who are looking at, numbers, who are looking at these things. Listen, we're looking at several different things, and we also take into account who that person is in those interviews. And it's interesting to see and to hear this, because initially I would assume, hey, we want the guys with the measurables. But Brad Holmes has proven that whatever his way is definitely something far greater than not just us, but even these pros out there can't get right. And we know that because of the previous era. I'm not even going to say their name. The previous regime here within the Lions organization. So Brad Holmes cooking is no longer just something we say. It's not something you just brand or market. It's a literal reality. Brad Holmes is literally cooking even the pros, the tops of the game.
Yes, and imagine what Brad Holmes would have been able to do with 4 out of the 32 to 66 picks in a draft. Imagine that. Because in the NFL, in the salary cap era, you have to be good at drafting. You saw how quick the Lions were able to turn their entire franchise around because Brad Holmes has drafted so well. You saw how the Kansas City Chiefs, even though they had to trade a Tyreek Hill and they got rid of Tyrann Mathieu, were able to maintain their Super Bowl. They were able to maintain what turned out to be a dynasty, not just because of Patrick Mahomes, not just because of Kelsey and Reed and Chris Jones and Steve Spagnuolo, because they drafted guys like Trent McDuffie. They drafted George Karlaftis. They drafted L'Jarius Sneed. They drafted Nick Bolton. They drafted Rashee Rice. You have to be able to draft well, which Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah has proven so far that he has not been able to do. I mean, look at even his 2023 draft. You see Jordan Addison was a nice pick. Mekhi Blackmon was a nice pick, but their 2022 draft, they had so many picks, and it's not just these ones. Nobody's been good. The best one from that draft is probably a Caleb Evans, and he's a mid-corner.
Crazy.